It was just an ordinary evening for me, nothing special, just a few hours to kill before I had to get back to work. I had no plans. No agenda. I hadn't even thought about going out. As soon as I opened my phone, I saw an anonymous message from someone who wanted to meet. The message didn't say much, just an invitation to meet at the park. I wasn't sure what to think. It could have been a prank or a genuine person. I hesitated, unsure if I should reply, but curiosity got the best of me. I quickly responded and agreed to meet, without revealing my identity. I had nothing to lose. I arrived at the park a little early, my heart pounding. What was I doing? This was definitely outside my comfort zone. But I told myself it would be fine. I was just meeting someone new, nothing more. The park was empty at this hour, except for the rustling of leaves in the wind. I waited near the fountain, pacing, checking my phone every few seconds, looking around, wondering if this person would actually show up. Just as I was thinking about leaving, I saw her. She walked toward me, her figure bathed in the soft glow of the streetlights. I couldn't believe my eyes when I saw who it was. It was her, my friend's mother. I froze. This couldn't be happening. This had to be a mistake. What was she doing here? She smiled warmly at me, and I tried my best to hide my shock. She greeted me, her voice calm and gentle, as if there was nothing unusual about this situation. But everything about this was unusual. I quickly glanced around, my mind racing to process what was happening. Why had she contacted me? How did she even have my number? I didn't know where to begin. Should I ask her? Should I pretend nothing was out of the ordinary? She must have noticed the confusion on my face, because she spoke up. I'm sorry for the mystery, she said softly. I just wanted to talk to you without any usual distractions. I felt like I was on a date. This couldn't be real. My friend's mother, a woman I had known for years, was standing in front of me, inviting me to a secret meeting. Why? What did she want? But she didn't give me time to ask. She started walking slowly along the path in the park, motioning for me to follow. I hesitated for a moment. I didn't know what else to do, so I followed her. She was the one to break the silence. This might seem a little strange, she said, but I've been meaning to talk to you for a while. I tried to focus, but my mind kept circling back to the fact that she was the last person I expected to meet like this. About what? I finally asked, trying to make sense of the situation. She smiled again, as if she knew exactly what I was thinking. I've watched you grow up, and there's something I want to say to you. My heart skipped a beat. I wasn't sure I wanted to hear whatever she had to say, but at the same time, I couldn't help feeling a strange mix of curiosity and anxiety. I'm not sure what to say, I admitted, my voice slightly shaky. This is definitely unexpected. I understand, she said gently. It's not easy. But I think you're a good person, and there's something about you that I can't ignore. I didn't know how to interpret her words. My friend's mother had always been kind, generous, even. But this was entirely different. I had no idea where this conversation was going, and it felt like I was dreaming. She continued, but I guess sometimes, things just happen, and you can't control them. And I've realized that maybe it's time to take a chance. Her words left me speechless. I didn't know how to respond. Was she saying what I thought she was saying? Was this some kind of confession? I know this is a lot to take in, she added, looking at me intently. But I just wanted to be honest with you. I think there's something between us, something real. I stood there, my mind racing, trying to grasp what she meant. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath me. This isn't the conversation I expected, I finally managed to say. Not in a million years. But there's something about the way you're saying this, your calmness, that makes me want to listen. To understand. You're my friend's mother, I finally said, struggling to find the right words. This feels wrong. I know, she said softly. And I don't expect you to understand. But I couldn't keep this inside anymore. I had to tell you. I didn't know what to say or how to feel. My emotions were a mess. Part of me wanted to run away from this as fast as possible. But another part of me wanted to know more. What exactly was she trying to say? She smiled again, and for a moment, everything felt different. Not wrong, just different. I think we should take things slowly, she said. But we have to start somewhere. I nodded, not sure what I was agreeing to, but it felt like the right thing to do. Okay, I finally said. Let's see where this goes. As I watched her walk away, I couldn't shake the feeling that something had just changed in my life, something big. And even though I didn't know where this would lead, I couldn't ignore the way my heart pounded in my chest. I never expected that first meeting to leave me so shaken. But as I walked home through the quiet streets that night, her words echoed in my mind. There's something real between us. What did she mean by that? Was she just confused, or was there some hidden truth behind her words? I couldn't shake the thought that everything had just shifted, as if the ground beneath me had cracked. The next day, I kept replaying that moment in my head. I couldn't talk to anyone about it, not my friend, not anyone else. It felt like I had been pulled into some private world I didn't fully understand, but also couldn't deny. I went through the motions, running errands, scrolling through my phone, but nothing felt important. I had a million questions, but somehow, I didn't want to ask them. I wasn't sure if I was ready to hear the answers. That night, as I sat down for dinner, my phone buzzed. I froze, then checked the message. It was from her. I know last night was a lot, but I think we need to talk more. Let's meet again tomorrow. My heart skipped a beat. I didn't know what to think. Was this really happening? I stared at the message for a while, my fingers hovering over the screen. I wanted to say something, to ask more questions. But at the same time, I wasn't sure if I was ready for whatever she might say next. I simply replied. Okay. See you tomorrow. The next day, I found myself standing in that park again. It felt like déjà vu, but this time, my stomach was in knots. The questions I had from the night before were still unanswered, but now they felt even more urgent. What did she really want? Why had she chosen me, of all people? Was she just lonely, or was there something deeper? As I saw her walking toward me, I didn't feel surprised this time. But that didn't make me any less nervous. She smiled, and for a moment. I thought about walking away, but I didn't. Instead, I stood there, my heart pounding, trying to gather the courage to speak first. You wanted to talk, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. She nodded, looking at me with those warm, steady eyes. Yes. I think there's a lot we need to clear up. But first, I want to know, how do you feel about all of this? I wasn't expecting that question to catch me off guard, and for a second, I was silent. I didn't know what to say. The truth was, I was confused, overwhelmed, but also strangely curious. I don't know, I admitted. There's a lot to process. I never thought we'd have a conversation like this. She nodded, as if she understood. I know. But I can't ignore how I feel. It's not just a passing thought, it's something real, something that's been there for a while. My mind raced. She was talking about us. This was still hard to grasp. She was my friend's mother, a woman I had known for years in a completely different context, and now we were here, talking like this. You've known me for a long time, I said, trying to make sense of it. So why now? Why suddenly? She hesitated, looking away for a moment, before meeting my eyes again. It's not sudden. I've felt this way for some time, but I couldn't act on it. It didn't feel right, you know? But now, I feel like I can't ignore it anymore. She was being completely honest with me, and that honesty was both comforting and terrifying at the same time. I don't know what to say, I admitted. I don't want to make you uncomfortable, she said gently. But I've been struggling with this. I didn't know how to approach you. After last night, I felt like I couldn't pretend anymore. I don't want to make you uncomfortable either, I replied, my voice quieter. I'm just confused. I don't understand why you want this with me. She stepped a little closer, her eyes never leaving mine. I know it's complicated. That's why I wanted to meet like this, away from everything, away from expectations and roles. I just wanted to see you. Not as my son's friend, but as you. And I think there's something here. Her words lingered in the air between us, bold, vulnerable, raw. And the strangest part was, I wasn't entirely sure that I wanted to push her away. Instinct told me to back off, but curiosity told me to stay. So, what now? I asked, feeling a wave of uncertainty crash over me. She gave a soft, almost knowing smile. Now, we take it slow. No pressure. We just talk and see where this goes. I don't expect anything. But I think there's something here, and I want to explore it. I didn't know what to say. The idea of taking it slow sounded reasonable, but the truth was, this was uncharted territory. It felt like I was walking a tightrope, unsure of where the next step would lead. But slowly, I nodded. Okay. I understand, she said warmly. We don't have to rush. We just have to be honest with each other. And with that, the conversation shifted. We spent the rest of the evening walking through the park, talking about everything and nothing. But this time it felt different, like we were two people trying to figure out a new chapter that we hadn't planned to write. As night fell, I couldn't shake the weight of what had just begun. This wasn't just a simple meeting anymore. This was the start of something complicated. Something I wasn't sure I was ready for. But something undeniably real. I didn't sleep much that night. My mind kept spinning. Everything had changed so quickly. It felt like the ground had shifted beneath my feet, and I was struggling to find my balance. What had just happened? Was I supposed to feel the way I did after that conversation, a mix of confusion, curiosity, and something else I didn't yet have a name for? But I couldn't deny the connection we had. The next morning, I woke up to a message from her. It was simple, but it made my heart skip a beat. Can we meet again today? I hesitated before replying. It wasn't that I didn't want to see her. I just didn't know how to adjust to this new reality. But I couldn't avoid it. I felt something, and I didn't want to ignore it. Sure, I typed back, trying to keep my answer casual, even though I could feel my nerves shaking with every word. The park? Like yesterday? I figured it was the only place we could talk freely. She agreed. And as I walked through the streets toward the park that afternoon, I couldn't stop replaying the night before in my mind. I knew what she had said, that she had felt this way for a while and that now she couldn't ignore it anymore. But I still didn't fully understand what she meant by that. And whether I felt the same way. Or if I was just getting caught up in something I wasn't ready for. When I saw her standing in the park again, my heart skipped a beat. She looked even more beautiful than yesterday. That calm but intense gaze of hers. There was something about the way she carried herself that made everything feel more serious. More real. Hey, I greeted, trying to sound casual even though I felt anything but. Hey, she responded softly, giving me a small smile. I'm glad you agreed to meet again. We started walking again, just the two of us, trying to ease the tension between us. It felt like we were both trying to figure out where this was going. What was happening between us? The park was quiet, and the sun was beginning to set, casting a warm light over everything. For a moment, it was easy to pretend we were just two people walking, without any complications. But we both knew that wasn't true. I've been thinking about what you said yesterday, I broke the silence. About how you felt this way for a while. She nodded, her expression soft. I know it's a lot to take in. And I'm not trying to push you into anything. But I just needed to be honest with you. I can't pretend anymore. I've never felt this way about anyone, especially not you. But I can't deny it. I don't know what to think about all of this, I admitted, my voice uncertain. I mean, I never expected something like this to happen. You're my friend's mom. This feels wrong. But also, it doesn't. She stopped walking for a moment, turning to face me. I understand. I really do. And I'm not asking you to make any decisions right now. But I just need you to know that this is real for me. And if it's something you're even a little open to, then I think we should take it slow. See where it goes. I looked at her, trying to read her expression. She wasn't pressuring me. But I could still feel the vulnerability in her words, like she was opening up something that had been hidden for a long time. And the more I thought about it, the more I realized. I couldn't ignore what was happening between us. I don't know if I'm ready for anything yet, but I don't want to ignore this, I said, my voice a little calmer now. I just need time to understand what all of this means. She smiled, a quiet understanding passing between us. That's all I ask, time and honesty. We continued walking side by side as the conversation naturally shifted to lighter topics. We talked about everything and nothing, life, work, the little things that didn't seem important, yet in that moment, they were. There was a comfort in the way we spoke to each other, as if we had known each other for years, even though everything about this felt new. But beneath the surface, there was a growing tension. I felt it every time I glanced at her, every time our hands accidentally brushed against each other. I didn't know where this was going, but I couldn't deny that something was there. It was undeniable, even if it didn't make sense. We found a bench near the edge of the park and sat down. The air was cooler now, but still warm from the lingering sunlight. We sat in silence for a while, just taking it all in. The stillness was peaceful, yet the questions lingered between us. What were we doing? And why were we doing this? Eventually, she spoke, breaking the silence. You don't have to decide anything today. I just want to make sure you know how I feel. And I want you to understand that there's no pressure, I don't expect anything from you. I know, I said, my voice quieter than before. I'm just trying to make sense of everything. She nodded, and I could see the understanding in her eyes. I know. But sometimes things happen that we don't expect, and maybe this is one of those things. I didn't have an answer for that. But somehow, I didn't feel like I needed one. We were both in this strange place, and for now, that was enough. As the sun fully set, we stood up to leave. She gave me a soft smile, and for a moment, I felt like maybe everything would be okay. But I knew the questions wouldn't stop, and that was something I had to figure out on my own. The next few days were a blur. Every time I tried to focus on anything else, my mind drifted back to her, to us, to everything we had talked about in the park. There were still so many questions and no clear answers. I felt like I was standing on the edge of something big, unsure whether to take the leap or step back. I knew I couldn't avoid her forever. And I didn't want to. Despite all the confusion, there was something undeniable pulling me toward her. I wanted to see her again, even if I didn't fully understand what that meant. And so, I found myself texting her, asking if she wanted to meet again. My heart pounded as I typed the message, wondering if I was rushing into something I didn't fully comprehend. But the moment I hit send, I felt relief. I needed this. I needed to see her again. She responded almost instantly. I was hoping you'd reach out. Meet me at the same place tomorrow. We can talk more. I agreed. And when the day arrived, I was there, waiting at the park as the sun began to set. It had become a quiet place, somewhere we could talk without interruption. A place where everything felt simpler, even though it wasn't. But when I saw her walking toward me, something tightened inside me. She wore a simple dress, her hair flowing gently in the breeze. She looked beautiful, but there was something else in her expression, something I couldn't quite place. I could tell she was nervous, just like I was. Hey, I said, trying to sound casual, but the words didn't come out as smoothly as I wanted. Hey, she replied softly, her eyes meeting mine. I'm glad you came. We sat down on the same bench where we had talked before. The air was cooler now, but still warm with the last light of the evening. For a few minutes, neither of us spoke. The tension was obvious. But so was the connection. We both knew there was something more here, something deeper between us. But neither of us seemed ready to name it yet. Finally, she spoke, breaking the silence. I've been thinking a lot about what you said last time. About taking things slow. And I want to respect that. But I also want you to know that I can't pretend this doesn't matter to me. I can't ignore how I feel. I looked at her, my mind racing. I understand, I said, my voice softer than I intended. I feel it too. But it's complicated, isn't it? I mean, you're my friend's mom. This doesn't feel like something that's supposed to happen. She paused for a moment before turning to face me. I know. I really do. And I'm not asking you to ignore that. I just want to be honest with you. And if you feel even a little bit the way I do, then maybe we should stop pretending. Her words hit me hard. I wasn't sure how I was supposed to feel or how to respond. But I couldn't deny the intensity of everything between us. I'm not pretending, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I'm just scared. This feels too big for me. She nodded slowly, her gaze never leaving mine. I know it's a lot. But sometimes, you have to take a risk and trust that things will be okay. We don't have to figure everything out right now. But I can't keep pretending this isn't real. I care about you. And I think you care about me too. Her words stirred something deep inside me, something I had been trying to push down. I didn't know where this was going. But I didn't want to fight it anymore. I had spent so much time overthinking, trying to make sense of it all. But the truth was, I didn't have all the answers. Maybe I didn't need them right now. I care about you, I admitted, my voice steady for the first time. I don't know what happens next, but I don't want to walk away from this. I want to see where it goes. She smiled then, a soft, genuine smile that made my heart race. I'm glad to hear that. And we'll take it one step at a time. No pressure. Just honesty. And we'll see what happens. For the first time in days, I felt like I could breathe again. The weight of everything we had left unspoken had been lifted. We didn't have all the answers. But maybe, for now, that was enough. We talked more after that, not just about us, but about life, our hopes, our fears. Not just about this complicated, new dynamic between us, but about finding a way to navigate it. We laughed. We shared stories. And for a fleeting moment, it felt like nothing else mattered. Just the two of us, trying to figure this out together. As the evening drew to a close, she stood up, brushing the dust off her dress. I guess we should go, she said, looking at me with both affection and uncertainty. But I'm really glad we talked. I feel better knowing where we stand. Me too, I said, standing up to walk her to her car. I wasn't sure what the future held. But I knew one thing for certain, this was a beginning. A beginning of something real, no matter how complicated it was. When we reached her car, she turned to face me, her expression serious. This won't be easy, she said. But I think we can figure it out together. I nodded, my heart pounding in my chest. Together. And with that, she got into her car and drove away, leaving me standing there, watching her disappear into the night. I didn't know what the future held. But I knew one thing, I wasn't ready to let this go. Whatever this was, it had become something I couldn't ignore anymore.